Hey, my name's Xenu, and you're listening to Anti Moonboy News. Sorry for the delay in things. We're a couple days behind schedule, but the show must go on. And today we're going to be having an update on the block size debate that was happening within Monero. So we're going to talk about that. We have some Zcash scandals to go over. Haven't really talked much about Zcash lately, but a bunch of stuff happening with them, so we're going to be talking about that. So lots to get to today, and of course we even have a couple Superchats. But first, we're going to be talking about the whole block size debate. So in the last episode of Anti Moonboy News, our featured story was on the block size potentially getting a sanity cap. And this was not really known by many people because, most people don't really read the Monero Research Lab chat logs. So I kind of broke this story, and it caused quite a bit of commotion, which is kind of cool. I like to know that my podcast is, causing people to discuss these things because I think it is important. However, I do think some of the more conspiracy-minded stuff with this got taken a little out of hand, a little out of context. So I wanted to kind of bring the issue back and kind of ground it a little bit and explain a little more on exactly what has happened and what is happening. So that's what I wanted to do. And to kind of review, Monero right now has a lot of what's called technical debt. And because of this, it's been found after these stress tests that have been going on with Monero and full chain membership proofs, it's been found that the Monero network can't really handle full chain membership proofs. And it can't handle it at our current transaction totals, which is obviously bad. The good news is already a lot of optimizations are happening, and developers are they're on this, right? They are focused on improving things, and it's very much getting the focus right now of people involved with Monero. But I did catch a lot of us off guard, right? We weren't expecting this issue to come up. And so what developers are talking about is actually capping the block size. And now, from that alone, right, some people have taken this issue into Monero is going to become a small block coin. I've seen this from some people who I think are bad actors, like on Twitter, for example. And I see it from people who I think just care about Monero and, got a little emotional when they saw that, which is totally fair. It is a little scary to talk about. We don't want to cap the block size. This is an issue that we take with a lot of pride in Monero, where we want our layer 1 to grow as more transactions happen. But as it stands with the current scaling arrangement, we could have block sizes up to a gigabyte in size within only 2 years, which would actually destroy Monero. And that's not an exaggeration. The Monero would die if that happened. So it's actually extremely serious. This is why I've been talking about this technical debt issue, because this is the biggest problem facing Monero right now. So last week we had a CCS proposal that had passed for Perfect Damon, who is a Monero developer, an expert in C++, and he's going to do a lot of good work cleaning up the code. And that mixed with all the optimizations that are happening, we're heading in the right direction. That being said, though, what do we do in the meantime? Right? What do we do in the meantime? And what's being proposed is we add a cap to how much the blocks can grow. And it's called a sanity cap because it just is common sense to cap the block size because the network would crash. And that's pretty much it. So we're not going to become a small block coin. All right. That's not happening. Never was even considered. Okay. What we are doing, though, is we are capping how much dynamic blocks can grow. And the alternative is the network would die. So until we clean up this code where layer 1 could be, could work with these theoretically massive blocks, until that happens, we need to protect ourselves. And this is what's being argued. So again, there were people who on Twitter, I think they're bad faith people, who were running with this, saying that Monero is under attack. You get the tweets with like the alarms, the red alert alarm emoji shit. Like, the other thing too was like they would keep mentioning, read that book by Roger Ver about the Bitcoin takeover. And like they're trying to sound like they're unraveling this massive conspiracy. It's like, listen, this is like open dialogue happening in the Monero Research Lab. Read it yourself. It's not this like secret cabal that's like trying to break Monero. Monero would break if we had blocks that big. So it's amusing to me. Now, that being said, to the point of the other side, we got to stay on top of this. This is true. So I don't want people thinking I'm like mad that people are skeptical about this. Skepticism is phenomenal. And honestly, I'm pretty happy a lot of people are skeptical because it shows that we're not just kind of taking whatever's given to us, like some other projects out there who just worship the people, the developers, right? We're looking at this as a new issue and we're debating it openly. I think that's great. So we have actually 2 Monero Research Labs meetings that have happened. The one last week was very, how should I word this? Very combative. It was definitely people really sticking up for themselves and pushing for what they believed was the right decision and whatnot. And at the end, a loose consensus was reached. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. The meeting today was a lot more brief, but more to the point. The consensus has kind of been found. We're going in this direction. So let's read through. So the discussion, this is from the Monero Research Lab unofficial account on Twitter, which I highly recommend you follow, by the way. They do a great job of summarizing this. I don't know who's running this account, but they know their stuff. So shout out. Here's what it says. The discussion evolved from Kayaba Nerve, Luke Parker, his 32 megabyte proposal to achieve loose consensus on a temporary 90 megabyte hard cap for the FCMP++ hard fork. Acknowledging current peer-to-peer RPC limits could cause net splits. The cap prevents network breakage, buys 5 to 6 years for fixes, and is intended to be removed after upgrades. Arctic committed to incorporating it into a scaling proposal with emphasis on future solutions for underlying protocol issues. Kayaba Nerve says, I'm fine with 16 to 90 megabytes. I just support 32 megabytes. I'd like to discuss some hard cap independently to any/all other proposals. 32 megabytes is due to the stability of the current stress net. 90 megabytes is an actual hard requirement of the peer-to-peer and RPC layers. Shall we get consensus on a 90 megabyte hard cap and fine-grain from there? At worst, the network is artificially limited, and we have to issue a new hard fork in some years to remove the limit when we upgrade the peer-to-peer and RPC. At best, we stop a net split, which would occur unless we upgrade the peer-to-peer layer. Arctic Mine, like I said, there are 2 choices, fix or a 90 megabyte hard cap. Justin Ehrenhofer says, I'd rather have a hard cap until we know the network won't break. Personally, removing it would be symbolic, not functional, if the network would break if reached. Ofrnxmr says, Tevador's proposal limits growth to below 90 megabytes for another 5.5 years. Adding a 90 megabyte hard cap means that in 6 years it will stop growing. We don't need to demonstrate that today's nodes can handle 90 megabytes as that test is 5 years away. Justin Ehrenhofer adds, and if it's fixed by a fork in the meantime, it can be removed before the limit is ever reached. Jeff Rowe says, if we go with a semi-permanent fixed hard cap, I support 90 megabytes. Ofrnxmr agrees. I'm in favor of a 90 megabyte cap that won't be reached for another 5 years due to a sanity cap of 1.4x yearly max growth. Boog, he says, I would be okay with a 90 megabyte cap as a separate thing from Arctic's scaling proposal. Justin Ehrenhofer says, yay, we agreed to a thing within one meeting. Justin Berman says, I think Tevador's proposal plus 90 megabyte hard limit due to packet serialization limit is reasonable, and think we've reopened discussion on it once stress testing gets further along and helping answer what the daemon can actually handle. VT Nerd chimes in and says the issue is the hard limits on objects and strings in the current serialization system. Otherwise, 90 megabytes is likely sufficient. Rucknium adds, I saw a few people, including me, suggest that the 90 megabyte hard cap should still raise slowly. I object if it's an indefinite 90 megabyte hard cap. Raise it linearly by 10 megabytes a year, starting 5 years from now. That's an escape hatch. Arctic Mine says, it does not help. The only other answer is to fix the underlying issues. Luke Parker says, the intent is to remove it as soon as the protocol is improved. Hopefully the protocol is improved before this ever is actually applied on the blocks. Rucknium, the peer-to-peer and RPC layers are designed for this. Yes, we can improve the layers. That has to be done. Arctic Mine says, now I see a path to consensus. Luke Parker says, will this be done over the next 5 years, making this irrelevant? Probably and hopefully, but if those improvements don't happen, will the network break? Yes. Will the sanity limit stop it from breaking? Yes. It also just sets an outrageous limit that, assuming a current scaling proposal is adopted, will become relevant in 6 years. Justin Ehrenhofer says, how about we agree not to add the cap by the next hard fork if it's fixed by then? Arctic Mind supports that. Luke Parker then says, anyways, we're all assuming Monero will be upgraded to fix these limitations. The proposal just means we won't break it if we don't upgrade for whatever reason. If someone redoes the peer-to-peer and RPC by the full chain membership proof plus hard fork, with appropriate testing and review, I'm not adding this limit with the full chain membership proof hard fork. I'm not fine delaying the hard fork for those milestones, however. And not just is what nodes can handle. Nodes can only handle 32 megabytes. That's the current limit. 90 megabytes is where things definitely break without reworking multiple parts of Monero. And under current discussions is 5 years away anyways. Suggesting we break in 5 years, if this isn't fixed, is a gun to our head. This just removes the round from the chamber. Arctic Mine says, this is going to come down to material progress. If so, we can keep consensus. Luke Parker responds, the limit is only proposed as a sanity limit due to fundamental limitations in the current stack. If the limitations are removed, this limit should be removed, but we should never allow blocks so big they break the network, whether regarding live operations seeking the blockchain or running wallets. Rucknium adds, would you be fine with adding a 90 megabyte sanity limit with the full chain membership proof plus hard fork if these improvements are not made by the full chain membership plus hard fork, or unless the Monero daemon is deprecated for copyright, assuming copyright fixes this, by the full chain membership proof hard fork? Rucknium says, that was all Luke Parker. Rucknium responds to what Luke Parker asked Rucknium regarding copyright. He says, Luke, no, I would be fine with it, but my objection shouldn't stop it from being implemented in the hard fork release software. Luke Parker says, then with a sole explicit objection from someone who says their objection shouldn't be a blocker, I'd like to thank you and say we appear to have consensus in favor, even if not unanimous consensus. Ofrnxmr says, but in any event, we need to fix the peer-to-peer protocol before we hit those numbers. That may or may not require a hard fork. So that is logs from the Monero Research Lab. And this is the thing, guys. When I'm like on Twitter reading this like conspiracy crap with like Monero under attack shit, it's like, dude, the developers are having a very mature discussion, And there's like legitimate reasons to have a sanity limit. As Luke says, Monero would die. Like that's very serious. So having limits until this is fixed is probably a good idea. And that's it. There's really not much else to say here. It seems like a consensus was reached last week, and that's awesome. Now, I also have here a thread from Ofrnxmr. I'm going to be kind of repeating myself here. I thought this was a really good thread, though, where he kind of goes into a little more detail about what is kind of the background information regarding the 100 megabyte packet limit. So he says, this is a Twitter thread. I'm just going to kind of jump around and read what he wrote on Twitter. You should give him a follow if you haven't. He's pretty active on Twitter. He says, there's a 100 megabyte packet limit that has existed since Genesis. Current scaling allows us to hit gigabyte blocks within a year, but if this were to happen, blocks going above 100 megabytes, the nodes would stop syncing. The nodes would stop syncing, and the blockchain would die. The proposal to add a 90 megabytes cap on scaling is to avoid instant death until we can refactor peer-to-peer syncing to allow greater than 100 megabyte blocks. And by the way, 100 megabyte blocks, that's pretty fucking big. Okay. This is why, like, I'm reading some people saying, like, Monero's becoming a small block coin. It's like, dude, it's 100 megabyte blocks. That's every 2 minutes. Those are massive. We're probably not going to hit that anytime soon. This is like just a sanity cap, just to preserve the blockchain. Ofrn goes on to say there were serialization limits that stop block syncing at 30 megabytes. Those fixes are also on the table to be fixed ASAP. Perfect Daemon had fixed them in the pull request 7999, VT Nerd with 8867, OXFFFC, increased the limits to be in line with the packet limit in 9433. None of these PRs are merged. The limits were introduced during 2020 in response to a network attack. Nobody liked the limits, and 7999 fixed them but couldn't get reviewers. Idiots like a Fungible tried to knack Perfect Daemon's new CCS, but thankfully it was funded. We need people like him for these deeper issues to be fixed. Here are some of my favorite comments on 7999. PR all by Celsta, the GOAT, he says. Celsta is, of course, a Monero dev. Quote, portable storage was the code part that was exploited in December 2020 with the remote DOS attacks. And as a side note, Monero has always been under attack, okay? So this was an attack that happened back in 2020, before a lot of you guys are probably here. But I do remember this. Basically, it was a DOS attack on nodes. It would cause nodes to just fail. So this was like a kind of a thrown together kind of thing to fight that. Anyways, he goes on to say, this is a replacement for the peer-to-peer part that is way more RAM efficient, also faster, making OOM attacks like that basically impossible. You can run the demo to see before and after RAM usage and performance. This PR contains a demo. If someone suggests a different implementation, then they can be compared for performance and RAM usage. This currently is a significant improvement compared to current code, as can be verified by everyone running the demo patch alone, than with the serialization replacement. If you can do it better and simpler, then please PR it. We can trivially compare it. Otherwise, it's honestly a bit exhausting to comment negatively on something without testing it for mostly subjective reasons, code complexity and style, while not proposing any alternatives. Current code is clearly trash, as seen by the December 2020 attack. The limits we added were mostly hacks and not a real safe long-term solution. This here would be a solution for the peer-to-peer part of it that exists right now and is also well tested. And he kind of concludes the quote where he says that where the current code is clearly trash. Ofrnxmr requotes and says this part is still where we're at today, and that this is the crux of the issue. The current code's bad. So until we fix this current code, there's nothing we can really do here, right? Ofrnxmr continues. What these proposals come down to is adding a sanity cap based on Nielsen's law that allows a max block size to grow by 40% per year. This is not 40% on top of 300 kilobytes, but 40% on top of 10 megabytes. The main issue isn't just a packet size limit, but actual hardware and software bottlenecks. And so, yeah, this week was definitely more agreeable. It seems like the proposal by Tevador, which adds a sanity cap that does grow over time. This is what was agreed upon, and this is where we're probably going to be headed. Luke Parker's 32 megabyte cap was turned down. And for what it's worth, Luke had also said multiple times that he just wanted to start the discussion, because if you read the logs, there was a lot of just back and forth where there was no progress happening. So it's kind of like, all right, let's just start with a number kind of thing. So it does appear, though, that 100 megabytes, that has to be the limit. And if a 100 megabyte block were to get sent out, the network would die. And so that's the bottom line. So there's not really much else to say here. I think I've beaten a dead horse. I think you guys kind of get what's going on here. I do encourage people, though, to read these MRL logs. It's like high quality discussion. And in my time in Monero, it has never been so active. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. A lot of excitement. Full chain membership proofs around the corner. It's exciting times, guys. And so I do encourage people to check that out. So you don't take my word for it. I want you guys to also read for yourself, because it's pretty cool stuff. Other Monero Research Lab news that happened. Oh, so might as well mention this. Spy notes. So this was a topic back in MoneroCon that I actually recorded for Rucknium and Bug. If you want to go and rewatch that, I should post a link in the description if I remember. Basically, it was discovered that there were spy nodes, and that these spy nodes would reveal themselves with a metadata heuristic. And we know that they're spying because they're purposely misleading their IP address. You can watch the presentation if you want more of a deep dive, but basically it was figured out that there's a lot of spy nodes on the network. And Rucknium had created a website where you can monitor these spy nodes. And what happened was on December, 5th? Yeah, December 5th, the number of spy nodes plummeted. It went way down, and we're not really sure why yet. This was discussed this week in the Monero Research Lab. We think they're still there, but they have changed their DNS records. And in actual fact, like literally now I'm on the website, you could see that the number of suspected spy nodes has spiked back up. Evidently, they have started to do things based on the research I mentioned in the MoneroCon presentation. They've started to do things to obfuscate their tracks as a reaction to that open source information, which is kind of funny. This is like a cat and mouse game, right? You have these spy nodes trying to attack Monero. Monero Research Lab, it's an open source project, so they publish their research. And I mean, they don't have to do that. They do have internal channels, but in this case, they decided it was worth it based off certain parameters. And it looks like they are trying to hide their tracks yet again. There's a lot of discussion here. The bottom line, guys, the most important thing, though, is to update your Monero daemon. Always be running the latest daemon. This is what helps the network the most. This cat and mouse game, it's been ongoing for years now, or at least with this Monero one. This specific issue has been at least a year. Might even be longer. I forget. Check out the presentation if you want more of a deep dive. But yeah, that was kind of interesting to see, though, because it does seem like they're trying to fight back against the research that was done to expose them. So interesting stuff. Okay, well, with that featured story out of the way, we're going to open up the phone lines. You can call at 1-555-MOONBOY. if you'd like to appear on the show. And in the studio, of course, I have my robot with me. What's up, robot?
Beep boop. Hello, listeners. Beep boop.
And of course, robot has his girlfriend, the vacuum cleaner. Hello to you as well. And would you look at that? We already have a caller. Hello, listener. You are live on Anti Moonboy News. How are you doing today?
Yeah, hey, Xenu. This is your neighbor, Tony.
Oh, hey, Tony. What's going on? Glad you're listening to the program.
Yeah, we got a problem here, Xenu.
Problem? What do you mean?
Well, last night, I was woken up at 4 in the morning to someone banging on my door. So I go out front, and I open the door. You know what I see? I see that fucking robot of yours.
Oh, boy. Robot, did you wake up, Tony?
Beep boop. I plead the fifth. Beep boop.
You know what this fucking guy says to me? He asks me what type of refrigerator that I own. The fuck is he asking me about that at 4 in the fucking morning?
Well, robot happens to really like kitchen appliances.
I don't fucking care if he likes kitchen appliances. It's fucking 4 in the morning, okay?
Beep boop. He probably has a low tier quality refrigerator. Beep boop.
I swear to fucking God, if I see you in the morning like that again, I'm gonna shove a baseball bat through that gearbox of yours, okay?
No, it's okay, vacuum cleaner. We won't need to call the police. Tony's a good guy. He's just upset because he was woken up early in the morning, which is understandable.
Oh, and another thing. Why the fuck are you talking to this vacuum cleaner? Have you gone mentally insane?
Oh, I mean, it's robot's girlfriend, you know.
Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah, anyways, I just wanted to speak my piece here. Let's not do that again, okay?
Okay, Tony, I'll talk to robot. It won't happen again, okay? I apologize.
Alright. I'll see you tonight for the game then.
Yeah, we'll hang out. All right, I'll talk to you later. You just can't help yourself, huh?
Beep boop. It wasn't me. Beep boop.
Yeah. All right, let's move on from that clown show to another clown show. I'm talking about Zcash. Now, here's the thing, guys. I understand people will listen to my program and think that I just blindly hate Zcash because of heavy bags. Of course, I think I've made it pretty clear at this point. I'm relatively against Moonboys. But no, the thing is, my dislike of Zcash is actually very grounded, I think. It's very rational. And I've explained my stance on Zcash over the years. It's just a project that is very corporate, very sterile. And because of that, it is not cypherpunk. I think that's kind of the simplest way to just describe it. It's just not cypherpunk. And so, in reaction to that, we have several stories here to cover. And it was just a rough week for Zcash. I'll be honest with you guys. A rough week for Zcash. And it started with this story regarding the Zcash Foundation. There was this guy who created a Zcash treasury in a similar vein as many of these Bitcoin digital asset treasuries. Someone made a Zcash one, and they called it Zcash Strategy. Clever. And so they made this. They're supportive of Zcash, clearly. They're buying it in bulk, I'm assuming, at least. I didn't really read too much about the project. But they received a cease and desist letter from Zcash from their foundation. And the idea here is that, well, the Zcash Foundation, they own the trademark, and they weren't comfortable having somebody else create a treasury for Zcash using the name. And it's kind of like this type of concept here, okay? Permissionlessness, okay? We don't want money that requires permission. We want open source digital cash. That's what I want, at least. And this is a perfect example of the bad side of Zcash. Because they found this guy who, I don't even know if this project is that serious or not. It doesn't really matter, though. Because they're sending him all this like lawyer shit, telling him to stop. And so what he did is he posted about it on Twitter. By the way, I couldn't find the tweet. It looks like his Twitter is now suspended. So, it's hard not to get conspiratorial about Zcash, guys. Like, I imagine they were just notifying Twitter to get this guy taken down or something. Whatever. The guy on Twitter for Zcash Strategy made a tweet saying, WTF, why am I receiving this? And a lot of the Zcash crowd was evidently unaware that Zcash would do something like this, because it falls in line with what they've been doing for the past decade. This is a protocol that has unironically gone after people selling t-shirts with the Zcash logo, stickers with the Zcash logo. I swear to God, you actually have to get a license from them to do that. They might have switched that this year after some pushback, but it's still pretty strict about what you can and can't do with the Zcash brand. And that's just completely opposite of Monero. And Bitcoin, for that matter. It's just corporate. It's gay. I don't know how, you know what I mean? It's just fucking lame. Who cares? They're using your brand. Why would you go after somebody who's promoting your project? Now, I'm going to play a little devil's advocate. It's possible that this Zcash strategy, website or whatever was a scam. And perhaps the Zcash Foundation thought it was in their best interest to, say stop confusing people who are going to be innocently investing in your project or whatever. But, that just doesn't fly with me. That's not really a good excuse for going after somebody like that. So this was a PR disaster for Zcash. And I don't think they've even responded to it. Because they know that at the end of the day, the people who support Zcash don't really give a shit about this. So I think they kind of just ignored it. But you just know last week they were having all these internal meetings, damage control meetings about this crap. And again, it just really, it's frustrating because when people think I don't like Zcash, they think it's just blind tribalism. And that's not the case. This is one of the main reasons. I don't like the fact that this foundation controls a lot of things related to Zcash. I think that's kind of fucked up. Because you have to look at the long term here. If they're getting all in a hissy about, a trademark, what else are they going to get mad about in the future? You know what I mean? And it's that concept of compliance. And it's a bad taste in your mouth. It's hard to trust any software company these days. And this is why we really preach open source software, because the only thing you can trust is a project that is grassroots and relies on open source coding and, work. When you have digital scarcity, it adds a lot of complications, to be clear. But actually enforcing a trademark on a digital currency, it's kind of spitting in the face of the people who support your project, is it not? And furthermore, like, it essentially hints that in the future, they will be enforcing other types of things. And because we're privacy advocates, we have to put our tinfoil hats on and say, you know, what else are they going to be enforcing in the future? You know, if I were to make a manifesto about Zcash, would I even be able to use the Zcash logo if they don't approve of what I'm saying? You know what I mean? What are the limits to this? Because right now, Zcash, their community really, they have a relatively active message board. It's mostly academics, though, right? There's really no user base for Zcash. As we've talked about many times before, they don't talk about using crypto. It's tech stock, right? And it's kind of like when you do something like this, you are really pushing people away. So no, I'm not blindly hating. I'm being real with you. This is why we fucking hate Zcash. Because of like dumb shit like this. And the truth hurts. I mean, I saw a lot of people who like Zcash that were like kind of shocked about this. It's like, yeah, this is how they are. And again, it's frustrating too, because like you'll see the Zcash people who are like, you know, well, I guess the Monero guys are assholes, but it's like, no, we're just being real with you. I mean, okay, there's some people in Monero who are assholes. Sometimes I'm an asshole. I'll be honest. Yes, I am. But this is very grounded. Like the concept of them enforcing a trademark, it's hand in hand with how we view them as a sterile corporation. And that's just not cypherpunk. And we need digital cash to be cypherpunk. Read Darknet Market Maximalism for more information, because I pretty much go into much greater detail there. But who knows? If Zcash starts to be used, they will face legal action, regulatory action. And that's going to be the test, because I'm seeing this as it's a LARP. I don't trust it. I mean, do you guys think Zcash is going to stick it to the man? The last thing, though, probably the worst part, too, of this Zcash week, was a post from Arkham. Arkham, they released a block explorer for Zcash. And here's what the initial tweet reads. Zcash is live on Arkham. Arkham has now labeled more than half of the privacy chain Zcash's shielded and unshielded transactions. This is more than $420 billion of volume tagged to known individuals and institutions. Track Zcash transactions, entities, and balances on Arkham. Here's what you'll see. And they have a whole explorer there. The tweet thread continues. 53% of Zcash transactions are labeled. $420 billion of volume attributed to an entity. 48% of inputs and outputs are attributed to an entity. Probably the miner who has like 60% of their hash rate, I would imagine. 37% of the balances are labeled. Track large Zcash holders, USG. The United States government seized $737,000 in Zcash from Alphabet founder Alexandra Kazis 8 years ago. That $737,000 has now doubled in value, held by the U.S. government. You can also track top Zcash traders. This trader acquired $4.49 million of Zcash during the 10 October market crash, then waited 5.5 weeks before sending the coins to Gemini. If he sold the coins when he deposited them, he netted a profit of $6.6 million more than his entire principal. You can also use Arkham's intel Arkham Intel's other features to examine Zcash activity. For example, you can visualize Zcash transactions in entity networks, set alerts for large or notable activity, build custom dashboards to track Zcash in real time, surface insights from Arkham AI to noteworthy Zcash activity. Now, Zooko, and he said, this is cool, and in parentheses, no, Arkham didn't actually de-anonymize any Zcash that was held at rest in shielded pool. That would be impossible because the information just isn't there. They're just tracking wallets that opted into public transparency. Arkham responds, credit to Zcash Zooko for a very civilized response and appreciation of the contributions to the ecosystem, or Arkham's contributions to the ecosystem. He's a big fan. Many keyboard privacy warriors / bots posting nasty things, nitpicking technical terminology concerning the tiny amounts they're hiding exclusively in shielded pools. End quotes. Actually fully shielded, end quote. Yes, your Z2Z transactions are not accounted for in the 50% of Zcash transactions label. That's why there's another 50% left. So here's the thing, okay? If you want to attack Zcash, the best way to attack them, and I'm telling you this from experience myself, the best way to attack Zcash is to ask them, why don't you just do private by default shielded transactions? Why not? Because the answer is they don't want the regulatory backlash. They don't want the smoke. This is the problem. They don't want to deal with that. So yeah, they have transparent addresses, which apparently they don't have any game plan for getting rid of, which is fucking insane. I did see a thread on the Zcash forum with some back and forth about it, but it doesn't look like it's anywhere close to passing. And it's been discussed for years about, well, maybe we should get rid of, transparent transactions. No progress. And one, this is inexcusable from a privacy perspective, okay? Because it's not fungibility. It's actually the opposite. Because the response from the Zcash people, and this is the other thing, is, well, we're fully shielded. We're completely private. And that's not true. The metadata that is leaked from transparent transactions going into shielded transactions will fuck people. Now, that's assuming Zcash is used in the future. I'm not sure. But if Zcash is heavily adopted in the future, this is how it's going to be attacked. The metadata from going from unshielded to shielded will absolutely screw people. And the fact that this isn't talked about amongst the Zcash people as a major vulnerability is complete horseshit. It's fraudulent, really, is what it is, because none of the devs talk about this. They kind of hand wave it away. It's like, why? If you send a specific amount of unshielded Zcash, let's say 1.3454, and you shield that amount, and then you send that exact amount to somebody who's actually working with feds, the timing analysis and the amount correlation will link you to that transaction. So this is a major vulnerability. Now, it's not like you can't have that type of correlation attack occur in Monero. You absolutely can have it occur in Monero. We've seen it happen. That's why I'm aware of this. If you watch Attack of the Poison Outputs, we talk a lot about how the feds are attacking Monero. And they're using this correlation activity when people are swapping from Bitcoin to Monero. It's the same freaking thing, except replace Bitcoin with Zcash unshielded. If anything, it's probably easier to trace because it's happening on the blockchain. In this case, you don't have to subpoena, a CoinSwap exchange. I do think most of these CoinSwap exchanges are colluding with feds anyway. But if it's a non-KYC CoinSwap exchange, that's like an extra hoop that government officials will have to jump through. But in the case of Zcash, it's all on the blockchain. And again, most of these KYC exchanges that have Zcash, it's all transparent addresses. So like this disclosure by Arkham and the response from Zcash people being like, oh, actually the shielded transactions are safe. No, they're not. And that type of naive belief that they're actually okay is why, like, I view the Zcash community as like pretty fraudulent, because they're like not thinking from the other perspective, because it absolutely can be attacked. And it's why Zcash just isn't going to be used in like darknet markets, for example. And by extension, it's not going to be used by regular people. It's only going to be used by hobbyists and people who are pump and dumping a tech stock. That's all I see here, because they're not taking this seriously. And the way to take cryptocurrency seriously is to look at it from the perspective of somebody whose life depends on cryptocurrency. Now, that's the difference. Now, the last thing I want to talk about today, before we get to the super chats, is just a question I was asked this week. I thought this could lead to just some good discussion. Is whether or not I hold Monero. I forget how the question was posed to me exactly. It was by a guy on Twitter who I quite enjoy his stuff. His name is Alexei. He's a Bitcoin maximalist who likes Monero a lot. And I like his opinions because I like to hear opinions from maximalists. And I don't think his opinions are necessarily wrong by any means. I think he's a very smart guy. He is a Moonboy, though. But, you know, as I've talked about on this program, anti-Moonboyism is not against the number going up, as is often believed. It's against the mindless nature behind the Moonboy. So Bawdy, he put it best. Being anti-Moonboy is not being against the mooning necessarily. Well, it kind of is. Like, we don't want Monero to moon too quickly, but we're not against the number going up. We're against the Moonboy. That's the issue. Anyway, Alexei, he asked me directly on Twitter. He's like, and I don't have the tweet in front of me. I think he got like suspended or something. So the tweet, though, he basically was like, I don't understand. He said, like, I think you're a smart guy, but like, I don't understand why you're against holding Monero or something like that. Like, it would be bad if you were, not taking advantage of the investment potential of Monero. He said something along those lines. So I want to make this clear here. The reason I don't talk about holding Monero is out of principle. I think that it's just all too common that people who are in cryptocurrency talk about their bags. So out of principle, I just don't even acknowledge it. And it doesn't matter if I hold Monero or not. I have been around for a while, so you can make some assumptions about that. It's true. But it's one of those things where I just don't feel comfortable with acknowledging necessarily. I don't think there's any point, to be honest with you. There is absolutely nothing wrong with buying Monero as an investment. And I actually think it's a smart idea. I'll be straight up with you. I think that there's a lot of regulatory concern for it, and that is definitely having an impact on the price. And I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon. But if you read Darknet Market Maximalism, I basically give a bull case for Monero in Darknet Market Maximalism, which is kind of ironic because I shit on Moonboys in it. And I admit this in the manifesto. I'm like, listen, I'm telling you guys flat out, I do believe that Monero's usage on darknet markets will give it aura and clout, and that this will turn around and actually snowball into speculation. I pretty much say that directly. But I'm not going to encourage people to go buy Monero. I think that's stupid. I'm against it on a fundamental level. And I also would not be surprised if it doesn't work out. Because so many times in my life, I have put idealism ahead of like cold hard facts, you know? And this is a detriment. Like I probably could have made a lot more money if I had done other things in my life. But I just can't live with myself if I do stuff like that. So, you know, for me, my whole perspective is that if you are buying Monero to get rich, that is completely fine. And it's actually a use case. I just very much look down on the behavior of glorifying that. Because at the end of the day, what's much more important is that we have peer-to-peer digital cash. That's what's important. It's not getting rich. It's preserving peer-to-peer digital cash for future generations. That's what's important. I'm not, contrary to what people might think, I am not somebody who is like hyper fixated on Monero, taking over the world. I'm not. I think Monero will be a niche thing for quite some time, quite possibly. It could pump in the future. I've already explained that, but instead of declaring this, instead of saying, hey, I hold this much, or I hold Monero and I want the number to go up, instead of saying that, I'd rather just say, I use Monero. And I wish more people were like that. Okay, so let us now go on to the Super Chats. I think I answered the question there pretty well. I also think like there's a novelty to like being a little mysterious about things. And I just don't talk about anything regarding cryptocurrency, regarding holdings for that reason. Like I'd rather people make assumptions about me, but like I'm not going to like declare things because I think it's bad OPSEC too. It was the other thing. To be clear, I do think buying and holding Monero is a use case. So I want people to understand that. And in actual fact, I'm probably going to end up making some sort of Anti Moonboy doctrine, because this just keeps coming up where people are like, I buy Monero and I want to get rich. That's your use case, right? It's like, yeah, it is. Like, I'm not saying it's not a use case. But the problem with these like Moonboys in general is they don't understand nuance. And unfortunately, that type of like low IQ behavior is it like attracts other Moonboys. And then you'll have like fucking Solana degens shilling Monero, and it's just, I don't know. I don't want that. I'd rather not have that. So this is something I guess I would disagree with on something like number go up, is like I'd rather just grow slowly over time and be used. So I guess like to leave things off then, would you rather get rich or would you rather have your cryptocurrency be used? That's the key thing. And I'd rather have a cryptocurrency be used. And I genuinely firmly believe that. So maybe I'm crazy. I do talk to a vacuum cleaner. Someone mentioned to me, I have a group chat, by the way. So if you're listening, if you go to antimoonboy.com/secret room, I have a chat link for Matrix if you want to join. And a good friend of mine on there, he mentioned to me that the skits that I make for this podcast, it reminds him of Pee-wee's Playhouse. And that was kind of like a mind-blown moment for me. I was like, oh shit, like I completely ripped off Pee-wee's Playhouse with Robot, like, because Pee-wee, he has a Conky 2000, I think his name was. And like, no joke, my image of what Robot looks like is exactly ripped off from that. Like, it's But also, like, just the naming things after the things. I didn't even consider that, but like, Pee Wee, he has Cherry and Flory. And like, oh man. I think for Christmas, we're going to be having a Pee Wee Herman Christmas special live stream, by the way. So if you're interested in that, come join the group chat. We'll live stream it. Have a good time. So anyways, let's get to the super chats. We got 2 this week. We're going to keep it a little kind of nice and short this week. The first one's from Leo, who gives 0.02 XMR. Hey, Leo, as always, thank you very much. You're the man. And he says, privacy season has seeped into the halls of the SEC. The mindshare is growing, says Doug on X. Seriously. Of course, Zcash working with government will benefit Monero. What's wrong with Doug as he sometimes has statist tendencies, ? Yeah, again, I mean, we kind of talked about this last week, Leo. This is just how Doug is. And he ran for Congress. So he does have statist tendencies. It's just how he is. At the end of the day, he just wants people talking about Monero. Like, he is a pure Monero maximalist, where like he does not care how we get to more people talking about Monero. He just wants more people talking about Monero. So he very much disagrees with like, my perspective on Anti Moonboyism, and he's brought this up to me, where he gets like, there was this one interview I had with him where Doug's like, so do you think I'm a Moonboy? Like he was kind of offended by that, but like, I mean, I kind of do think he's a Moonboy. Like, I'm surprised he wouldn't be like accepting of that label, I guess, But no, he's a Monero maximalist, and he's done so much good for Monero. So I don't really like, shit talking Doug. I would say I would prefer we not do that all the time, Leo. But to your point, though, yeah, he does say things like that where it's like, do we really think that, the SEC stuff is going to change things? Oh, I totally forgot to mention that story too. So thank you for reminding me. The SEC, they're having some sort of roundtable discussion, and Zooko is going to be on the panel. So thank you for reminding me, Leo. Yeah, that's going to be happening. I don't know when it is going to happen, but we're definitely going to be breaking that down on Anti Moonboy. Yeah, we'll probably react to the entire, hour, 2 hour long discussion. But I know Zooko is going to be there, and who else? Let's actually look that up. So let me SEC Zooko cryptocurrency. It says here the U.S. SEC has updated the agenda for the roundtable on cryptocurrency and privacy with Zcash founder Zooko set to deliver a keynote speech. The SEC will host a roundtable on cryptocurrency, financial surveillance, and privacy on December 15. The event will be opened by senior SEC officials, including Richard B. Gabbard, director of the Crypto Task Force. Chairman Paul S. Atkins with several commissioners. Key highlights of the meeting include Zcash founder Zooko Wilcox will deliver a keynote speech. Co-CEO of the Aleo Network Foundation will also speak. Panel discussions will be moderated by Yaya J. Fanusi, Global Policy Director of the Aleo Network Foundation. Participants include policy analysts from the ACLU, the CEO of the Blockchain Association, representatives from multiple privacy technology companies. Well, there you have it. Yeah, I mean, that's it's gonna suck ass. I could just I can already tell that's gonna be a brutal listen, because they're gonna be shilling the fuck out of Zcash, and we probably will not hear Monero mentioned, or barely mentioned, and it's kind of just like whatever. But who knows? It could get interesting. If they're hosting a roundtable, are they going to be having members of Congress there? I don't know if that's going to happen though. Because I don't think it's a hearing, right? So if it's not a hearing, they probably are just going to show whatever their respective company is. But if it is actually like a hearing, you would then have a lot of congressmen talk about terrorism and darknet markets and stuff. That's what for me, that's what would be interesting. But I think this is mostly like, Zooko talking about, I'm the advisor for Cypherpunk Technologies, and we really want to have privacy for the common man. Privacy is for everybody, guys. That's literally what he's going to say. He's gonna, privacy, it's for everybody. That fucking shit. And it's not that he's wrong when he's saying that, but it's just like, the feds hate us. Like, why are you being friendly with them, So anyways, that's all I have to say about that. We'll be covering that, I guess, next. When's the 15th? Oh, that's on a Monday. Yeah, I'll probably have the my reaction to that for next Monday. So that's going to be pretty exciting. So that gives me some content at least to work with. And lastly, we got a donation from Anon. He gives 0.01 XMR. Thanks, Anon. And he says https://monero.forum. There you go. Looks like he's got some sort of Monero message board. You can go check that out. And it looks like they're starting this thing, so that's cool. I gotta say, I do like the old school message board look. I'm a sucker for like message boards, like boomer like message board stuff. Those were the good days, man. Like Twitter's fine. Like I like Twitter mostly for like cat pictures and stuff, or like Sydney Sweeney's tits. But I do miss like the boomer aesthetic of like message boards. So thanks for that, Anon. Okay, we're wrapping the show up there. Thank you guys so much for listening. Sorry for the delay in the release of this. We should be back to regularly scheduled programming next week. AntiMoonboy.com, Anti-Moonboy News, XMRBazaar.com. I have merch on there. AntiMoonboy.com/merch for that. And yeah, as I mentioned too, AntiMoonboy.com/secret room if you want to join my hidden chat room. All right. Have a great week, guys. See you guys soon.